everybody. Welcome to She the Mighty, where we train, finance, and mentor female entrepreneurs. I'm Michelle Smith,
And I'm Kylie Martin.
and this is What Do You Want to Talk About? Today, on today's episode, I want to dig into the incredible topic about branding. And so, particularly for female entrepreneurs, you can see the amount of effort and questions that come up when people are working to design their brand. And when I work with people in sales, one of the big questions that comes up is why they don't feel really confident to give themselves permission to sell. And this always comes into play that there are a few hesitations because of the way that their brand looks. So, I want to pose a question to you with all of the experience that you have working in branding with corporations, with entrepreneurs, etc. Where do you start and how do you level up your brand without spending big money?
Such a great question, such a loaded question. So I'm just going to start by answering that question this way. And that is that I think people start with the look. They start with, does it look cool? Is it going to stand out? Not that those are bad questions, because we get to those questions, but they're not the first questions to ask. I think for a lot of people, stepping back and really looking at, and you've all heard it, and it's been said a million different ways, so I'll just say it in a recognizable way, but why? Why is this thing, and we're branding that thing so that we can market that thing and sell that thing. Why is that existing? What is it doing? What are the benefits? What is its main reason for existing? Because what happens is when you can nail that, when you can understand that, when you can feel into that, when you can believe into that, what happens is the brand evolves on a look and a feel level because that is first understood.
Mm-hmm. And so as opposed to starting with a visual concept, you're suggesting for people to step back and ask themselves a question that is a little bit of a deeper rooted set of values
Precisely.
or
Yep.
purpose.
Yep,
Okay.
precisely. Because what happens, and I've seen it in a lot of boardrooms, what happens is you get a lot of smart people together and they're like, okay, is the logo square? Is the logo round? Is it blue? Is it green? And you're going to have, if you've got 50 people in that room, you're going to have 50 differing opinions. And no one's going to know why that other one wasn't good and theirs is good, or why yours isn't good and theirs is better. No one understands why. It's just a matter of opinion, and people are going by visual versus
Mm,
understanding what is the brand saying? What is the brand
mhm,
communicating? What does the brand feel like? When the brand is alive, what is it? And then
mm,
that informs, is it dark? Well, maybe it should have some gray tones and some black tones. Is it light? Maybe it should have some yellow tones, some pink tones. Like everything stems from what is the brand? What is the brand's personality? We talk often about avatar. We talk often about like, if the brand's a walking, talking person, where do they hang out? What do they say? Who are their friends? Like we bring the brand to life first before we know what it looks like, because someone has to look at your brand and recognize it. They have to recognize it, and people aren't conscious about that, right? They don't go, oh, good that they decided it's a hexagon and that it's got green stripes and that it's black and that it curves, the logo curves at the top. No one's looking at a brand and consciously doing that. They're getting a feel as a whole.
right. And so interesting. So I want to kind of interject it. The first piece of advice is don't go necessarily and hire a branding company to take over and redo it for you.
Right.
Right. Because
Well,
even
that's the
after
big
that
money.
process,
That's the huge
right,
money.
that's the huge money. And
Yeah.
even after that process,
Yeah.
there still may be some resounding doubt in the way that you're showing up. So one of the first things to do is to ask several questions to identify and uncover the questions you've already started to pull, which are, why does this company exist? What is the purpose?
Yep.
What are the values that you are representing?
Yes.
What is your intent? What are you looking to endeavor? So that way, when you are working and adding people to your team, I remember a conversation with you, and you said that you were in a meeting and every single person that worked for the company thought the company's brand stood for different things because it
Exactly.
wasn't something that was clear. Okay,
Right. That's right.
so how do people start to do that? So how do they fix it if they're looking at their brand and they don't feel that it is a cohesive and complete and accurate representation of what their company does, or if they're about to open a business and they're endeavoring to take on this daunting task of
Yes.
creating a brand, what are the first things that they should do, either if they want to fix it or if they would like to draft something new that they feel has intent behind it besides what color is the cutest
Yeah,
color?
exactly. And again, that's all important stuff, right? What your brand logo is, what it represents, how you market, that's all important stuff. I'm just suggesting that that comes a slight bit later once you've figured out all the first, to your point, deeper stuff. So I would say, like, obviously there's the corporations that we just spoke about, but for the entrepreneur, often you're kind of on your own. You're on your own little island going like, I really love this thing I'm creating, but I don't know, or I'm not sure. So I would say the first thing to do, because we use language when we're marketing and we use statements and we use words, I would say start to write as much as you can, stream of consciousness, write down things that really have meaning for you, are purposeful for you. Why did you come up with this idea? What's the backstory? Just start to write, because out of that framework is going to come certain words that are going to land. We all know when for our businesses, we all know when we're like, that's it. When we're like, how do we say to people this message? And then we noodle it and it's like, no, no, no. And you know when you don't have it, and you know when you have it, you can feel it. You can
Mm,
feel it because you fully resonate with what that thing is. So I would say start to write. Now we have these amazing tools called AI, and they really are brilliant for things like if your head isn't producing the words or the ideas that you want, you can just start to, as much as you can start to ask AI, questions. Can you please figure out how I would say this? What does this say to someone? You could write a sentence and say, what does this say? And AI will spit back to you what they think you're saying. And you might go, that's not it. That's not it. Just start to play, I would say, is the first step. Play with language, because once you have something, then you can build.
okay. And so when they're playing, what type of categories of concepts help to build a brand? So I know we've talked about the why you exist, the purpose, your values, but are there other components too to think about? And so when you say to start drafting language, in order to give some guidance in that process, we're talking about things like, what is their brand's personality?
Yeah.
What do they want the tone or the
Yeah.
messaging,
100%.
the
Yeah.
way that they speak and how that sounds? So tell us more about those components that sometimes get forgotten. That when your brand has a voice, is it cheeky? Is it playful?
Right.
Is it very serious? And I think give us some tips along those lines, because that will help people when they're drafting to channel that personality. I say this because one of the things that I undertook when I was on the break, the whole world stopped, was that I took on a contract as a ghostwriter for the first time in my life. And this is super relevant to this point. It was very funny. So I've written several books. I am a female of a certain vintage, and I was contracted by this unbelievable, super successful, really, really strong, incredible communicator, younger man that was very authoritative, very successful in sales, etc. And so I had to channel his voice when I'm
Right.
ghostwriting this book for him. And it was the most hysterical experience for me, getting into the right mindset as I would sit down at my computer and I'm channeling this gentleman who is about 15 years younger than I am, who is very brawny, very successful, commands everybody's attention when he walks into a room. And it was so fascinating to hear the difference in the voice as I was
I'm
writing.
so
So,
glad you brought that up. I'm so glad
oh,
you brought that up.
fantastic.
Because, there's so many ghostwriters. Like, there's so many novels we read or things we read that aren't actually necessarily the author, right? So it's so important to have that same voice. But to your point, it's really important to know clearly what that voice is. There's a really interesting song called Hurt that Johnny Cash did.
Okay.
And the origins of the song Hurt come from a different band. I'm not remembering the 9 Inch Nails did it first. 9 Inch Nails. Nine Inch Nails did it first, and it was gritty and painful, and
Mm,
the tone of the song was like pain.
mm,
And then Johnny Cash took the same lyrics and did a different version of the song in a different tone, and the whole meaning of the song, same words, same language, the meaning of the song completely changed. And it's really interesting if you listen to those two things. So I again would say that tone only can come once you've got messaging and the reasons that you are already clear on what it is you want to say for your brand. Like, why does your brand exist? What is maybe a mission statement of your brand? Maybe you even come up with a tagline already. Well, then, okay, that's just a word, but then now what's the tone of that?
mm-hmm,
And so that is something that is actually so overlooked by a lot of
mm-hmm,
people, and it's actually one of the most important elements to branding, I would say.
mm-hmm.
Very,
Yeah.
very important part of it.
Yeah, I find it fascinating. And I find it fascinating too when I see other people's websites, and it's really easy to see when there's a mismatch, right? When
Yes.
you take a look and you don't understand what is actually being produced. What does the business do? What is the intent of this project? And some mistakes that people can make with their brands, these are some of the things that we've had in open kind of brainstorming sessions before with groups and groups of business owners and working through these challenges. Sometimes they can be too flowery with their language and make it be a little too cutesy,
Yeah, or to try to
right?
be too cool or too trendy.
Something that's trendy that doesn't really hit
Yep.
beyond that moment in time. There can be mistakes made in order to make it too unique so that it just completely stands out from everyone else, but in doing so nobody understands what it is,
Yeah.
as opposed to being direct. We've found, and tell me what your experience is, we found that people had a resistance, specifically women, to being very direct and very clinical because it always looked too plain. It looked too unpolished. It looked not special enough. And in my experience, that's where they'll get into trouble with their
Yeah.
branding, that being direct is much smarter in its approach. And you can enhance and polish with the other nuances in the way that you will create marketing materials or things of that nature. And so tell me, what are your thoughts on that? Do you see that exact same scenario play out?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if it's big corporate or one person. If you aren't sure and you're going to market, that is a top-down approach. That gets felt, that gets passed. If people aren't, like, if you as the leader, if it's your business, if you start to grow and build and hire more people, if you aren't clear on what the brand is doing and why it's doing it, then
Mm,
that velocity of growing the brand isn't driving all at the same force. So we see it in big corporate, and we see it with solopreneurs. It's the same
yeah.
thing. So we talked about this the other day. There's gonna be the haters. There's gonna be people that look at your logo and go, "That's way too simple. Oh my
Mm,
gosh," or "That is no, don't." Fine, but if you know the reason for being and the reason that got there. Like the work, the work, the going backwards and sort of the work backing, right? The work backing to know I've done all the reasons why this makes sense and why this is the way it's going to be. It won't matter whether people say I hate green and I can't believe there's green in the logo, or you will say, well, this is, I fully believe in the reasons why we made these decisions. Because once you start to get people at the table, or people consulting you, or people giving their opinion, there's going to be a difference of opinion. If you as the leader aren't clear, then there's wavering, and then there's not confidence, and then there's a lack of that sort of drive, as I said. So it's why it's really important. It's why it's so important to go back to all of those questions and answers before you're just like, hey, I hired a designer and I said, come up with a cool logo, come up with a cool
yeah.
name. That's easy, and that's easy to spend money. That's back to the money spending. You can
Mm-hmm.
go to a branding company or a designer and say, this is my brand, this is what it feels like, this is why we're doing it, this is the outcome, this is the tone, all those things we just talked about. And the designer's going to go, thank God you know what you
Mm-hmm.
want, because
Mm-hmm.
they'll spend your money
Oh
giving
yeah.
you 500 drafts of a logo. They'll be happy with that. But when they can know they can nail it because you've given all that stuff thought, the brand comes forward so much differently.
Yeah, okay. And so I love that you talked about that specifically because when when I've worked with teams and I've worked with people to create brands, it's funny. I taught entrepreneur camp for years to 7 to 12 year olds, and they were the
So amazing. Your
easiest.
stories are so amazing from that experience.
They were the easiest, right? We started out at the very beginning of a 1 week period, and they at the very beginning got divided up into teams of four, and then they came up with a company name, they came up with branding, they created logos, they created slogans, they did all this before lunch on day one, right? And then decided what it was they were going to sell, and then over the course of the week, oh, incredible, incredible experience, and then they actually sold 95+% of them completely sold out by the end of the week. So
And can you
the
remind people that these are children? Like these are like
yeah,
9 to 12?
yes,
Like,
yeah, I said seven, 9 to 12 year olds, and most of them don't know each other. This is the first day of camp, and so, but the thing that was so curious is that they were very clear on their decision making. They
yes.
didn't second guess themselves.
Yes.
They, in fact, would like kind of argue with each other because they were all so sure of what they
Yeah.
wanted in the most part. So it's fascinating because working with groups of adults, we see a difference in that
Mhm.
behavior, right? I see it more in women than I do in men, and there's all kinds of reasons behind that. But women will they'll make a bid on what they think would be good for a brand, but you can hear the question mark attached to it, right? There's less of an authority to be taken on what they are certain about, and so there's a whole, landmine field of things to uncover and to talk about. What I love is the instruction that you said, which is to write and to draft out what you think, what you believe that this is here to do, what
Yeah.
your intent is. And I would add to that suggestion, when you're doing it, don't allow any doubt or other people's opinions or the people that you think are going to be against you or people who are going to put you down or won't take you seriously or any of the limiting relationships that you've had as you were growing up or any of those things. Don't let any of those voices enter into your mind when you go through this exercise, so that you can get to the closest statement of, this is what I'm doing, this is why we're doing it, this is why we're the best at it, this is why we're the best option, and this is what we're going to deliver, and this is the change that we're about to bring. And draft it from that spot of certainty so that you do believe in what it is that you're creating, and you know that that's something that's authentic inside of you.
Yeah.
Then when
Yes.
the haters come and take a look at it, when you've done that work, to your point, there is a huge chasm of space between confidence and certainty. And when you're confident, that's when you go out to a networking event and people ask you what you do and your tail starts to wag a little bit and you're like, "Oh, well, I do this." And you start to over explain and you're looking for their approval and in order to feel like you should keep talking. There's a massive, massive difference between that and certainty,
Yeah.
when you can
Yes.
simply say, this is what we do. We've got this company and this is what we're tackling.
Yes.
This is the
Yes.
solution we're bringing to the marketplace.
Yeah.
And
You
and the
can already
different
feel, like I
yes.
can already feel even in your statement there. I can feel that that is true, right? Like for the people that maybe are doing work or working on something and they aren't aware of why, or they haven't been told, or they don't really care, their level of success is going to be a lot different than the person who says, I'm riding or dying,
Yes.
right? Because there has to be a reason. You can open a brand or start something and, again, maybe you have some success, maybe, but for the people who are like, they are so attached to what it is that they are trying to achieve because probably it's making someone's world better or making a lot of people's world better, and they're so sure that they have to work on that. That's such a different place to come from than just, hey, I want to have some money and I want to be cool and I want to sell some stuff because I want to buy the yacht. And well, good luck to you, and maybe you get there. But for those of us who are purposefully driven
Yes.
and aren't attached to the success necessarily, we are doing it because we have to do it, because it's the right thing to do and it's going to make people's lives better, and because we love doing it. And then something is born from that is looks so different than just, I want to be cool. So it's really worth asking all those questions that you just mentioned, and then when you do get questioned, or you do have someone say, I don't agree or I don't like it, you can say, that's okay. I don't take it personally at all.
No, that's right. And so the important and the key integral step is to make sure that you can feel that you authentically feel proud of what it is that you're bringing and putting out into the world. And so for one of the final kind of pieces in this very kind of simplistic way to take a look at tackling the rebranding challenge, which I know people who have stayed stuck for years
Mhm.
because they haven't known how to undertake this and it's just so overwhelming. The last piece, I think, is in today's world, it's a very visual world. We are online connected. There are so many places to show up, and all of the different components of the expectation of the certain quality that you can bring to the table, that whether it's having a graphic designer take a look and do a run at a logo, or if it is spending a couple of hours and learning how to utilize some of the most simple tools today that exist.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm even going to say something as simple as Canva, which is an unbelievable user-friendly
Yeah.
graphic design tool. I'm not saying that you can outproduce all of the massive companies that are experts at this. What I'm saying is that you can give yourself the ability to correct any of the images that you don't feel really are well done, and you can do that with very little to next to no cost
Yes.
and still be able to bring out to the market a brand that you can feel really proud of and really certain of.
That's a great point. Just to quickly cap on that point, because you did make me think of something important, because we are talking about doing things without breaking the bank. However,
Yes.
uh, and again, launch to the best of your ability, use those tools as you just said, but there comes a time when maybe you may want to rebrand and you may want to spend some money doing things differently as you're growing. And that's the point of brand growth. Like, brands evolve over time, just like we do, just like the times do, just like everything is fluid as we evolve and as the years go. And so too do brands, because they have to evolve with also in real time what's happening. So it's perfectly
Yes.
fine to say, hey, I'm going to spend a little bit of money to take a look at what my brand is doing, saying, how it looks, and maybe things start to evolve even that you weren't doing before, that you want to start doing because you've grown and because there's probably money in the bank from your business. So that's all really well and fine as well. But the same rules apply. You got to go back to the first questions, even on a
Yes.
rebrand, even on a
Yes.
rebrand.
100%, 100%. And so it's funny because I know when people go through this process, they'll reach out to their network. They'll reach out to other people that they are utilizing as advisors or confidants. And in most cases, those can be close family members, they can be close friends, and they go to them for feedback. And that is incredible to have these people in your corner and who are going to be your biggest fans. As a note of caution, in most cases, these are great to receive support because in many cases they'll say, "Oh, it looks great. Oh, it looks great. Oh, yeah, we love it. Oh,
Way
it
to
looks
go.
great."
Oh, wait,
Right. And
what a cute little logo. Way to go.
that's right. And I mean, in some cases, other people have very real, candid, raw relationships with other, they'll be like, "Nope, it's terrible." Right. They're like, "I'm going to tell you what I think." In what value is there in making sure that you do have a community or a group of accomplished business women that can give you their perspective so that you are getting that real time feedback,
Yeah.
that real perspective without there being any "I owe you to make you feel better" polish, but with the intent and with the effort to really give you candid information so that you can make strategic decisions quicker and gain more certainty when you are receiving that. How valuable or how important would you say that is in this process?
I think it's the most important thing, actually, the most important thing. And I have to give a shout out to what we've been seeing at She the Mighty, because talk about spending zero and getting value that's so off the charts that I can't even put a price on that. I wouldn't even be able to say it's worth X.
Mhm.
Having women who actually care. They're not setting out to see you fail. They are actually giving you real honest feedback so that you can be better, and they really want to see you succeed. And I think that is actually what community is supposed to be. That's what
Mhm.
it's supposed to look like, and we aren't seeing that out there very much. As a matter of fact, we see a lot of places where women, there's maybe some put down going on so that they can feel a bit better. And I love that that's not happening in the community where we get to work with entrepreneurs. People are really excited for the wins. They want to see it, and they're more than happy to help. We've even seen collaborations happen where people say, "I'll work with you on that. I'll spend some time with you on that." You cannot put a value on that, and I think you're going to see more success as people adopt that way of working, where
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit barter, but it doesn't even feel barter, because it's not, as you said, it's not I'll scratch your back and you'll scratch mine. It's just because there's power in doing for others, because it feels good and because you can. And I think
Yeah.
that that's what I love about our community, is that I offer an opinion if asked, or I offer advice when asked. It doesn't matter to me whether that's taken or not.
No.
It's up to the person receiving, and it doesn't matter. I'm not holding on to any of that, and neither are the other women. So that's the beauty of it. And it excites me to see more and more women sort of getting that piece of it.
Yeah, 100%. And so on our platform, you run a program called Brand Power that takes people through the exact steps of like in explicit detail of how to break all of these things down and how to work through defining what your purpose is and defining what it is that your intent is and how to make sure that your voice is clear and how to really go through all of the decision making so that you can kind of put that check mark beside, okay, I feel really solid about my brand. And that's an introduction to sales school
Yes.
where now we talk about how to get that messaging out into the world. And
Yes.
how do you now start to see a higher return? How do you engage with new customers? How do you champion your brand and undertake that ever elusive sales process that everybody loves to
Oh,
be a part
yeah,
of?
and I love both of those programs, because you actually start to realize that people really think that the answers are the important thing to have in your wheelhouse. Really, it's the questions to ask that are the most important thing to have in your wheelhouse. You have to know the questions. You know this better than anyone because you wrote a book all about it.
I was just about to say shameless plug for the 6 questions, the
Shameless
book that I
plug,
wrote with
but
Julie.
it's
Oh my
not
goodness.
shameless. It's
Yeah.
it's um it's
Yeah.
it's it's worth reminding women of that. Like, you
Yeah.
don't have to have all the answers, but you have to ask the right
The
questions.
questions. Yeah, and so the way that we would articulate this, and it hasn't changed today, is that it's not about knowing the answer because the answers will change, right? And
Yeah,
the answers will change for us as we evolve and as life evolves. But it's building a relationship with the questions that you're not afraid to come back and do a double check
yeah,
and to make a little map and to map against it. I mean, I know over the years we have worked on so many different female brands as I have built my intent to be able to help serve female entrepreneurs and all of the different ways that we've done that until we were able to build this fabulous platform and the consistent revisiting of what is our brand, how is it showing up today, and today it is very different than it was 10 years ago. It is very different than it was 6 years ago,
yeah.
and that's
2
because
years
of the
ago.
evolution. Absolutely, absolutely. So you like not being afraid of this process, learning how to come back to taking a look at, okay, how do I feel, how do I feel about representing the brand, how do I feel the brand is accurately representing us today, what do we need to do in order to garden out anything that has grown unintentionally or things that are no longer relevant, and then be able to re-release that out to the world. To do a brand refresh or a polish, it is absolutely never a bad idea. It is something that is a curated relationship that you're going to have and that your customers will also have, because as you evolve and your brand evolves, so do they.
Yeah,
And the biggest key thing is to make sure that what you are talking and what you're representing is the truth. So that when they realize that they can trust you, and that when they realize that they appreciate what your brand represents because they've actually seen it demonstrated, that's how you're going to establish brand power. It's not because you have the cutest little circle on the social media feed.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. That's all
Well,
just smoke and mirrors, and it doesn't really hold much weight at the end of the day. It's fun to play in that playground, but not really. It's way better to have all of those pieces in place, and to trust. I love that you brought that up.
yeah. Well, as always, it is a fascinating conversation here on What Do You Want to Talk About? I enjoy spending a tea morning with you anytime, Kylie. And so to everyone listening, thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next time.